picture it in my mind as if it was yesterday. Allow me to paint the picture in your mind as well. August 7th, 2007, two words come to mind: hot and rainy. 92 degrees hot and 2 inches of rain, rainy. Southbound lanes of Lakeshore Drive. A car is stopped in the middle lane, right at the bend by the Drake Hotel. Raging temperatures, rain and rush hour. Chaos is ensuing everywhere around. Cars move from lane to lane to get around the cars stopped in the middle lane. Some drivers honk. Some drivers gape. Some drivers pick up their phone and call their friends. Hey, Myrna! You'll never believe what I just saw on Lakeshore Drive. There's a man sitting in his car in the middle lane, clutching his steering wheel with both hands, staring into space like his brain was abducted by aliens. Man in the car was me. My brain had not been abducted by aliens, although in that moment in time I sure wish that it had been. No, I sat in the car in the rush hour rain and raging heat in the middle of Lakeshore Drive because I had just had my first ever full-blown panic attack. And it would become the first of a series of panic attacks I would have in the ensuing weeks, months, and years. And in that moment in time, I was absolutely convinced that everybody was out to get me and everybody hated me. I was absolutely convinced that I was about to lose my job because I was completely incompetent. I was absolutely convinced I was having a heart attack. And if I wasn't having a heart attack, it didn't matter because I was absolutely convinced my body was filled from cancer to head to toe. Rational fears will do that to you. They'll spin you around in the whirlpool of your life and they'll pull you down. Irrational fears of your own, friends and Toastmasters? Do you worry about whether or not your spouse or partner is cheating on you, even though you're in a perfectly healthy relationship? Do you ever panic about the fact that you're sick when you just came from the doctor a week ago and you got a perfectly clean bill of health? Do you worry about what people are thinking about you, even though they're too busy trying to figure out their own lives, that they don't have time to think about you because they're thinking about themselves? And the thing about irrational fears is you can climb up the wall of that whirlpool and start to get your head above the waterline for just a minute, but then a whole new team of irrational fears come in and they spin you around and they pull you down until you break. And on August 7th, 2007, I broke. And I sat in that car in the middle of Lakeshore Drive, in the heat, in the rush hour, in the rain, waiting. What was I waiting for, you ask? I was waiting for help. For the first time in my life, I'd done something that I never imagined I could do. I asked for help. I pulled my insurance card out of my wallet, I turned it over, I'd look at the number for the psychiatric helpline, and I called it. And I asked for help. And then and there began my 10-year journey to mental wellness and self-healing that is called therapy. And over the years, I've learned a lot about myself in therapy in these 10 wonderful years, and I'm so grateful. And if I could distill it down to 3 things that are the most important things that I've learned in those 10 years, they are these 3 things. Number 1, set boundaries. When you set boundaries with other people and with yourself, your life is immeasurably richer. First, let me tell you what that isn't. Setting boundaries does not mean drawing a line in the sand or building a wall somewhere and daring people to cross it and pay the price or stay on the other side and be silent. No. Setting boundaries is an act of selflessness. It's when you communicate with other people and with yourself about what your true needs and desires are. And when you do that, there's a much greater chance that other people will recognize and respect those things. Now, sometimes those needs and desires don't mesh with the people in our very own inner circle, our friends, our family members, our partners. And that means we have to challenge ourselves to decide if we're willing to set new boundaries. Number 2, celebrate finish lines. Our life is not one big finish line at the end, and if it is, I don't know about you, but I'm not in any hurry to get there. No, our life is more like a series of finish lines. And each time we cross the finish line, we get a chance to figure out what race we want to run next. And we get a chance to figure out what else we're going to do with our lives. And more importantly, we can celebrate. Have you ever been so obsessed with what you had to do next that you couldn't celebrate the thing that you were doing now? I know I have. That's how I get into that whirlpool again. Number 3, ask for help. So many people think of asking for help as a sign of weakness. Nothing could be further from the truth. And I mean truth with a capital T in this case. The fact of the matter is when you ask for help, it makes people feel good to help you. Doesn't it make you feel good when you help other people, friends? When you help them out of their whirlpool of despair? 10 long years. It's been quite a journey. And as I said, I've learned a lot about myself. But here's the most wonderful part of the whole thing. It's an ongoing process. I'm still changing every minute of the time. So when you are caught in that whirlpool of life and you feel it pulling you down, remember to ask for help. If I've learned one thing that's very powerful, it is that the power of the collective is infinitely more powerful than the power of one. And I encourage you to believe the same. So what collective will you be a member of, friends? Who will you reach out to in your time of need, and who will you help in their time of need? Because it's happening. And if you don't believe it, look at what happened in the airports. Look at what's happening in the streets. Look at what happens on Facebook every single day. And if your irrational fears are telling you that nobody's listening to you, I can promise you that those fears are irrational. Reach out. People are listening. Humanity is listening and waiting. And if you're not sure about that, I promise you, I'm listening. I got out of that whirlpool because I had a lot of helpers. And I dedicate the rest of my life to helping others get out of their whirlpool and inspiring others to do the same.